Good afternoon, or is it morning or morning? Good morning, Advocate Lever SC.
Good morning, Chief Justice.
How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you, Chief Justice.
Yeah. No, don't look around for me. You won't find me there.
Yes.
I'm in Mafike.
Yes.
Yes. You have 2 degrees from Rhodes University. Am I right?
That's correct, Chief Justice.
And when is there a problem with my connection?
You are fine.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mr. Lever?
I can hear you, Chief Justice, yes.
Yes. When did you begin your legal career?
In 1988.
Doing what?
I started with pupillage at the Johannesburg Bar, and I passed pupillage that year and commenced practice at the Johannesburg Bar.
And when did you take SOP?
Chief Justice, there is a mistake in my form and my CV, for which I apologize for. It appears there 2 dates appear, but the 2014 date is the date when I took SOC, and the SOC was actually awarded to me. It was the 19th of September 2014.
And what has been your area of focus?
Chief Justice, at a small bar, it's often difficult to develop a speciality. You have to be a jack of all trades. You have to be able to function in a number of areas. But my function has practically been a bit of administrative law, commercial law, contracts, a bit of delict, and a little bit of family law. And that would summarize mostly of what I've done in my practice, particularly in the last few years.
And how often do you appear in Botswana?
In Botswana, at this point in time, I last appeared there about 18 months ago. And at this point, I don't have anything pending in Botswana at all at this point.
For how many months would you say in total you've had the opportunity to act as a judge of the High Court?
Chief Justice, it's now just over 60 months that I've been acting as a judge in the High Court.
Very briefly, just tell us why you should be one of the 2 to be appointed to the vacancies at the Northern Cape Division of the High Court.
Well, Chief Justice, I think I can make a contribution. I have a certain skill set that I think would be a positive contribution to the Northern Cape. And I do believe that I can make that contribution, Chief Justice.
Yes. Very well, Judge President Laleti, but before you start, JP, let me have the list of my colleagues who would want to put questions to Advocate Lever. Colleagues?
Matoro Jepu, Chief Justice.
Matonsela.
Slema.
Dodovu. Nyambe.
Sepe.
Arnold.
Breitenbach, please.
Thank you. Honorable JP.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Judge President.
In your form, you did indicate that there are there were outstanding judgments then, and I think there were two patent matters that were still to be finalized. Can you perhaps update us in that regard?
Yes, Chief Justice, Judge President, I apologize. All of the judgments that were outstanding when I signed my form have been handed down. The two part-heard matters, one was a civil claim and one was a criminal matter, have both been postponed for various reasons. If I can deal with the civil matter first, that matter was meant to deal with a virtual hearing in the recess in early January this year. But the technical or the IT officer in the Northern Cape was forced to take leave for one or other administrative reason, and I could not ensure that the recording would be properly done, and so the matter had to be postponed further for that reason. The criminal matter is State versus Lashopi. That matter, Chief Justice, had a number of reasons why it was extended. One of them was the prosecutor was exposed to the COVID-19 virus, and so we had to take a number of days off until her tests cleared her. And then shortly thereafter, my secretary was tested positive for COVID as well. And so I had to self-isolate and also until I could be cleared. And then we proceeded with the matter. There were other issues that caused the delay. The two main witnesses who were eyewitnesses had very young children with nobody to look after them. And I thought it was only fair that when the children needed attention, we had to adjourn because they were doing a civic duty, and one needs to be sympathetic and considerate and understanding when these type of interruptions occur. And those are essentially the reasons why those matters have been postponed. And because there are multiple accused with multiple counsel, it's often difficult to get dates where everybody is available. And it was necessary on the last occasion to postpone, to actually ask the intervention of the then acting judge president, because certain of the representatives of the accused had other matters in regional and district courts, and the judge president, the acting judge president, had to negotiate to give us preference, and I asked for permission, and I was granted permission to deal with that matter in the next court recess. And that is a summary of those matters that have, for various reasons, been prolonged.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Thank you, Judge Lever.
Thank you, Judge President. Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much, CJ, and good morning, Acting Judge.
Good morning, Mr. Premier. Good morning.
Let me just try to orientate myself around the question I want to ask. There's an ongoing debate around the South African Constitution, whether it's a liberal or a post-liberal constitution. And I've got my own views that it's a post-liberal constitution because it goes beyond your normal framework and confines of a liberal constitution. You've got a Bill of Rights with socio-economic rights, and we also have powers for judicial review. So I just want to inquire from you, this character of the South African Constitution is post-liberal. What impact does it have on your orientation as a legal practitioner?
Thank you, Premier. That's a very interesting and thought-provoking issue. My view on it is that our Constitution and the writing of the Constitutional Court on this issue, I think, is illustrated in the political office bearers pension fund versus Van Heerden, where the court dealt with the issue of formal equality or substantive equality, and came firmly down on the side of our constitution hopes to achieve substantive equality, which takes into account that particular categories of persons who have been disadvantaged by history need to have assistance because of that disadvantage. And the only way you can achieve substantial equality is to actually deal with those problems that have been caused by our history. And I think my view is that, Premier, you're quite correct. It's not a purely liberal. I think it is probably better classified as a post-liberal, but I also find limited value in pigeonholing things. I think one has to look at what's required and deal with the substance and try and achieve substantial rights, which means real effect to the rights that are enshrined in our Constitution. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think I'm covered. We've established the rule of one question.
Yes.
All right.
Honorable Glebu.
Thank you, CJ, and good morning, Council.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Okay, I do know that the Northern Cape is a young bar. You know, it's actually fairly young.
Yes.
I'm just curious about the numbers so far. Do you have at least, you know?
I haven't counted the numbers and established, but we're a very small bar. It's in the region of 12 or 13 members at this point. There is, I think, one door member, which is the term we refer to. And yes, it is a very small bar.
And you know, I'm looking at your questionnaire. You have a very long acting stint.
Yes.
Which actually says to me you have a lot of experience in training young practitioners.
I have been actively involved in training young
I just
practitioners.
want you to tell the Commission what are you doing, what you have been doing in transforming and training young practitioners, because if we don't do that, Northern Cape will run short of people to elevate to the judiciary. And how involved are you in training young practitioners, especially women and black women?
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner. It is a definite issue that all of our members have been trying to deal with. It had been complicated recently by the change to the LPC and the different, at one point the GCB was still appointed as the training agency for advocates. Last year there was a little bit of uncertainty relating to that, and as a result we didn't advertise for candidates because we like to do this 2 or 3 months ahead of time, because candidates often have to either resign for work and resign from their current job and cash in pensions and make financial arrangements as well as family arrangements to spend a year under training with no income. So we didn't have an intake for this current year for that very reason. And I'm not sure which way it's going to go now with the bars individually being mandated by the LPC nationally to be training institutions, because as a small bar, we relied quite heavily on support from the bigger bars, because some of the elements of training we're simply not equipped to carry out. And so I think as a small bar, and I'm no longer in the leadership of the bar, there's recently been an election, it's going to be difficult. We'll have to forge relationships with other nearby bars who might have the facilities to do actual advocacy training. And also, the one advantage as a very small bar we had with the GCB, there was always somebody more experienced or with more resources that you could call upon for assistance, particularly if you saw that your candidate pupil had a difficulty in one or other area. There was always someone to call upon. And the rules of the game have now changed, to put it simply. The position we have at present relating to diversity at our bar and training and support of young black practitioners is we have one female black advocate at the bar. We recently had one female black pupil who recently passed her exams, but unfortunately Greener Pastures called. She was offered a lucrative job, and I can well understand that she took it having spent a year without income, and I can understand the other pressing issues from her family that we would need to consider. And we have one black male member of our bar at this point. I think your question included an element of what am I or what are we doing to transform the bar. It is a challenge, but what I have done as the treasurer is build up a reserve, financial reserve, which the senior members contribute 10 times what the junior members contribute to. And we've used those funds to sponsor one of our members to go to a training course in mediation in Stellenbosch. And we were able to do this by furnishing this member with an interest-free loan, which she has paid back and which will be used again for similar opportunities. But it's not just me that has done this. All of our members of the bar supported it, and we are looking for similar things where we can support young practitioners to give another skill and another set or potential source of income. One of our other junior members had financial difficulties at another bar, and I counseled this person so that this practitioner could get a clearance certificate from the former bar that the practitioner belonged to. And I motivated for giving that person a second chance at our bar, which I'm glad to say he has taken courageous financial decisions and has been a member of our bar for more than a year. Transformation is a long and slow process, and it needs active involvement and interventions. And we are trying, although I do acknowledge there's a lot further that needs to be traveled along this road, and there's a lot more that needs to be done, but it also cannot be artificially done. It has to be done on a case-by-case basis. And there has been, in my experience, of my colleagues at the bar, a lot of support for this. I hope that answers your question, Commissioner.
Thank you. But just a follow-up, what is the attitude of your bar in training advocates who are not members of your bar?
Well, to be a pupil, you're not a member. You offered the chance to become a member of the bar once you've passed the exam. So we take on any qualified, fit and proper person to who we have the facilities to train, because a small bar, we can't take on 20 pupils. We simply wouldn't have the facilities to train them. We can take on perhaps 2 pupils per intake. And, you know, we would take on the most promising candidates who apply in any particular year, and we would do everything we can to support them in passing the exams. And once they've passed, they would be allowed to join us if that's their wish. In fact, we want them to join us because we're investing a lot of time and effort in getting them ready and prepared to pass those exams. So we really do want, and it's part of our transformation, we want them to pass, and we want members to stay with us. If it's at all possible, we try and arrange, and a wide range of our members have tried to arrange interventions where work is offered to these junior people just starting out. It's very difficult, but and And it's hard to generalize, but we are trying to make a difference in that respect.
Thank you, Chief Justice, and thank you.
Chief Justice, I'm sorry, follow up, please.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Advocate Liba.
Good morning. Good morning. It's my friend, Mr. Mpofu.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I can't read at this distance. But
you can pick up my voice.
Yes.
No, thank you. It's been a long time since the good old days of the Joburg Bar.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks. I'm just concerned on this issue.
Yes.
I represent the GCB here, as you know,
Yes.
but in reality, I represent Advocates for Transformation. We have 50-50 arrangement with the GCB, as you know.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a governance model. So, in my capacity as the leader of the AFT then, we had a serious problem about 4 or 5 years ago where one of our members, I just forget his name, was literally being harassed and racially abused at that bar to the extent that he left. So I'm not surprised when you say you only have one black member.
No, we actually have 2 black members at this point.
Yes, which is also still low. But I'm just saying that one of the reasons is that of those low numbers might be the fact that there was active harassment. I mean, I don't want to go into the stories. Maybe you know the story where the person was not even invited to bar meetings and so on. To the extent that we had to send some of our leadership to go there and meet with the bar and intervene and so on. Firstly, are you aware of that issue? And secondly, if you are, did you yourself play any part in either trying to resolve or that situation, or did you do anything about it if you were aware?
Commissioner Mpofu, I only joined the Northern Cape Bar in 2018. So it would seem that it is 2 or 3 years before I became involved. You
were in the Northwest Bar before that?
I was at the time, and I was chairperson of the Northwest Bar at that time. Although I was acting in the Northern Cape during that period as well, from time to time. But no, I'm not really aware of the ins and outs of that situation. I do know that there was a difficulty with a certain person, and more than that, I'm not really conversant with the facts.
Just before your time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, CJ.
Thank you, Commissioner Mpofu. Advocate Madonseles.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, Advocate Liba. I'm here.
Sorry. Sorry, myopia and so on.
I'm the dark one.
Yes.
I'm the black man.
Preamble.
Yes. My focus is on in your activities outside of your professional life. It seems from your CV that you say that at some stage you're a member of parliament.
That's
or
correct.
A member of the NCOP representing the Democratic Alliance.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
I just want to find out from you whether you, like my friend on my right, are doubling up as a lawyer and a politician currently.
Mr. Madonsela, Commissioner Madonsela, I apologize. I have not been involved in politics for 17 years now, to the extent that the current representative of the DA on this body I've never met. I have, of course, disclosed that I was a member of the NCOP, and I believe I was privileged to be in Parliament for those 5 years, and I learnt a lot about my fellow South Africans in those 5 years. But I learnt a lot about myself in those 5 years, Commissioner Madonsela. I'm not a politician. I learned that and I acted on it soon enough, I believe, to save my personal space and my personal sanity. I think I made a correct move in leaving politics, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions on anybody. I'm not saying
you're looking on my right, but
yes, I'm not saying politicians are bad people. I just acknowledge that I am not a politician. But I don't deny I was there. I don't deny what I did. I appreciated the privilege. I met a lot of people across the political spectrum who I share aspirations with. We cooperate. I like to cooperate with people and find common ground. And on occasions, under certain acts we were considering at the time, which includes Paja, there were times when I would sit down with the PAC representative and we'd have a discussion and have very different views on almost everything.
So I don't want to waste time on this. I just wanted to.
I hope I've answered your question, Commissioner.
I wish I could ask another question on this aspect, but I don't want to exhaust my questions. My second question, unless it's just ask me to ask a follow-up question on the first question. No. Okay, I can move on to the second.
Make your request clear, sir. I'm not too sure what you're asking me for.
No, maybe Malema will do a follow-up question. Maybe I should move to the second. I wanted to ask the question. Although you are not a politician, but are you a member of a political party?
No, no. For 17 years, I've had no association with.
Thank you. The second question. I see that you are also you have stated in your CV that you are Jewish.
That's correct.
I just wanted to find out if you are not a member of the Jewish Board of Deputies.
I was not elected to that body, no.
I don't want to ask a further question. Thank you very much. Others will follow up.
CJ, just a follow-up question on that.
Yes, sir.
The Jewish Board of Deputies, you say you were never elected into position of power in that body. As a member, were you ever a member of the Jewish Board of Deputies?
I don't believe it works like that. I haven't held myself available to be a member, and I haven't ever been a member. I think the Jewish Board of Deputies is a broad body that represents several different Jewish organizations, including, people in the Jewish faith, or like in any other faith, there are people who interpret it very liberally and some who interpret it very traditionally and very strictly. So as I understand it, and I must say I don't have contact with the body directly, as I understand it, the Jewish Board of Deputies represents all of those bodies and has representatives.
I mean any body that is affiliated to the board.
I'm not a member of any body that's affiliated.
Okay, thanks.
Formally.
Thank you, CJ. For follow-up to Justice.
Yes, sir.
What is your view on, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioner. I'm sorry I can't see that far to read your name plate, but
I'm also navy blue, Muimang.
Commissioner Moimang, yes.
Yes. What is your view on the two-state solution on the Israel-Palestine conflict?
My personal view
on the two-state solution.
The two-state solution is, I think, the only practicable solution, and I fully support it.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Honorable Moima. Prof.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioner.
I would just like to ask of you what your judicial philosophy is.
Commissioner, I believe positivism is firmly in the past. And I see and I view our Constitution as being a constitutional democracy that has certain values which are reflected in what I would term natural justice. So I firmly believe in our constitutional values, and I've tried in all my time as both a practitioner and as an acting judge to implement the values of the Constitution. And I think the shortest answer I can give, whilst not cutting it short, is that I am a subscriber to what I understand our Constitution to be, and that is the basis of my political philosophy, my judicial philosophy, and I apologize for the Freudian slip.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Prof. Honorable Dodovu.
Just one straightforward question, CJ. You acted for the first time as a judge in 2007 in the Northwest.
That's correct.
Who recommended your first appointment, and how did you feel like to act for the first time?
Well, at the time, the Chief Justice was the judge president of that division, and so the invitation came from him, and I was humbled by it, and I regard it as a huge privilege to have been invited, and I've tried to give my best from that day forward. I hope I've answered your question.
You acted so many times as a judge.
Yes.
Both in the Northwest and Northern Cape.
Yes.
Is it for the first time you are playing?
No, it's not the first time I've appeared before this body.
All right, thank you very much. CJ.
Honorable Nyambi, is there a follow-up question?
Covered, CJ.
Oh, you covered. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Tsepe.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning.
Good morning,
Council. Just, Prof asked you a question relating to your judicial philosophy, and in your response, you spoke about your commitment to constitutional values. My first question to you is, in your practice or in some of the cases that you have presided over as an acting judge, could you give examples where you would have implemented the constitutional values, or you have met your obligation in terms of Section 39(2) when interpreting any legislation, or when developing the common law or customary law?
Commissioner Tsepe, one of the cases that comes to mind was covered by the UCT body that researches applicants and their judgments, relates to children's rights. There was an application for me to compel the identity of a person who raised an issue of concern involving 2 children. And I thought it my duty not to only deal with the facts of the matter before me, but to order that the registrar actually asks that a social welfare worker do a follow-up on the children to establish that the correct sexual boundaries were being observed. And so I believe that is an example in dealing with children's rights, which is something that is very emphatically set out in our Constitution. I hope that answers your question, Commissioner Tsepe.
It does. It does. Thank you. The last question relates to turnaround time relating to production of judgments. In your time as an acting judge, have you had any challenges relating to turnaround time for producing judgments? And if so, what were those challenges, and how do you think they can be resolved? Thank you.
Historically, yes, there were challenges, and there were different underlying reasons for those in each particular case. In one case, I had a litigant filed 2 supplementary sets of heads of argument after reserving the judgment. Well, it's then within the discretion of the presiding judge to either allow it or not, but you have to offer the other litigating parties involved an opportunity to make their representations. And that involves corresponding with people. And once you start corresponding with people, it can be delayed for quite some time. That was one instance. There are challenges, and when there are challenges, I try and make it a practice of mine to approach the judge president of that division and say, I'm experiencing this challenge, and this is how I'm trying to deal with it, and ask for either guidance or input, but at least make certain that the leadership is aware that on this particular matter there is a challenge, and challenges can arise in different and varying circumstances, but in each of these circumstances I try and have an appropriate and considered response.
Thank you, Advocate. Thank you, CJ.
Thank you, Commissioner Tsepe. Commissioner Barnard.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good day, Judge Lever.
Good day.
Yes. I want to summarize my question with two words, and then I'll just slightly expand. The two words are why you? And then to expand on that, bearing in mind on a very practical level that we have a constitutional imperative as a commission. The question then is, how do we do that? We're faced with 3 candidates in the 2 vacancy posts. What would you say? Why should the commission consider you favorably?
Commissioner Barnard, if I understand, you're referring in essence to the constitutional imperatives that are set out in section 174, subsection 2, that the bench and this body must consider that the bench should broadly reflect the demographics and the gender of our country. So I'm interpreting your question in that light. And my answer as to why me is twofold. Firstly, one should look at the existing bench in the Northern Cape. And while in one sense my candidacy can't be considered to be transformative of the bench nationally, but in the Northern Cape, my candidature would certainly give diversity if I was to receive the approval of this body. It would contribute to diversity. And as I said, when the judge president led me in his questions, I do bring a certain set of skills that I think can make a positive contribution to the bench on the Northern Cape.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Justice.
Thank you. Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Sorry, someone's at my gate and my dogs are making a noise. I apologize.
What's that now? That looks like you.
Hey,
I know
Julius.
you. Dennis, it's you, I know.
Julius, they like you, they make a lot of noise. Good morning, Mr. Lever.
Good morning, Commissioner Breitenbach.
I'm the DA member of the commission that you have never met.
Yes, that's correct.
So, and like you, I'm Jewish, and I'm not even mildly ashamed of it. In fact, I'm quite proud of it.
I'm not ashamed at all. I don't deny my religious identity, not at all.
Good for you. So there are thousands of Jews in South Africa, very few who are members of the Jewish Board of Deputies, of course. That's not my question. The question is this: women in the judiciary and in the legal profession in general are held to a different standard, a higher standard, if you will. Have you, in your experience, found that that applies to Jews as well? Thank you.
That's a bit of an unexpected question, and I must say I'm trying to think of an experience. As far as professional work goes, I haven't experienced that. But, you know, prejudice takes many forms, and I'm not sure whether your question is leading to that. But I haven't experienced, I must say, in my professional work or being held to a higher standard because of my religious affiliation.
Thank you. That answers my question. Thank you, sir.
I have a follow-up question, Chief Justice.
Yes, please.
As a Jew, you keep the Sabbath. In the other words, you don't do any work on a Saturday.
I'm not.
Does that?
Sorry. Please finish your question.
Does that? Do you think that will impact your? If you're given, for instance, an agent application and a Sabbath, would you take it out?
I've taken every urgent.
Sorry, I'm asking this question because I'm also Seventh-day Adventist and I keep the Sabbath.
Yes. I must confess that I'm not an observant Jew in the sense that I strictly adhere to keeping the Sabbath. Obviously, we all interpret our religion in our own personal way, but I've taken each and every urgent application that has ever been allocated to me, whether it is at 2 in the morning, on a Saturday, or on any of the Jewish high holy days, because that would be my commitment. And I take that seriously. I don't deserve any special treatment. I'm sure Seventh-day Adventist judges and other religious Muslim judges are faced with similar challenges, but you make a commitment, and that's the way I see it. And if an urgent application comes at an inconvenient time, well, so be it. I must just deal with it.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Reasonable accommodation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Advocate Levi SC. You are excused, sir.
Thank you.